Welcome back, Pedestal Wives. So I'm just going to give it a moment in order to make sure that everything's working properly. If you come in, just let me know. If you can see and hear me, I'd appreciate that so much. Spiritualizing money can keep you broke longer than being irresponsible. I'm going to just let that sit for a second because that's so important that we realize spiritualizing money can keep you broke longer than being irresponsible. Spiritualizing money can delay financial adulthood. I know you're like, bro, what do you mean? I know, because my husband and I lived it. This was simply the framework that we inherited from our family on spiritualizing money. Money was filtered through spirituality first, through character, through goodness, through right living, through obedience, through integrity. So that's how we approached it. And without realizing it, we gave money behaviors it didn't have. We made money moral. So when money slowed down, we didn't immediately look at budgets. We didn't look at spending. We didn't look at systems. We looked at ourselves. Were we good? Did we miss something? Did we do something wrong? Is something off spiritually? Instead of asking, did we budget? We asked, did we fail morally? That distinction is subtle, but it changes everything. Because when you look at money as being moral, every change within money feels personal. Every dip feels like correction. Every time money slows down, it feels like a spiritual signal. Instead of evaluating your systems, you evaluate your character. Instead of correcting structure, you correct yourself. And that delays financial adulthood. We avoided financial adulthood for a while, not because we rejected responsibility, not because we didn't care, but because when money is filtered through spirituality first, mechanics feels secondary, structure feels optional, tracking feels suspicious, budgeting feels like a lack of faith. It almost feels like if you were strong enough spiritually, you wouldn't need systems. But money lives in mechanics. Money is stored physically, transferred physically, spent physically, invested physically, taxed physically. It does not respond to virtue. It responds to structure. And that correction was humbling. We had to separate our character from our cash flow. We had to stop asking, are we good? And start asking, are we structured? That shift alone changes your entire relationship with money. Money energetics must take physical form into money mechanics. That is the integration. Money energetics is needed. Money mechanics is needed. But most people get stuck in energetics because it feels spiritual. It feels elevated. It feels removed from responsibility. It removes authority. It keeps you reflective instead of decisive. And money requires authority. Money requires decision. Money requires management. If energetics replaces mechanics, responsibility disappears. And when responsibility disappears, money becomes unstable. Energetics without mechanics creates instability. Mechanics without energetics creates burnout. Integration creates wealth. Now, let's talk about some of the phrases that people use today, not because that was our beginning, but because this is where people are getting stuck now. And we're going to give these phrases form. We're going to make them physical. I think the number one that I see all the time floating on social media is money is energy. Fine, it is. But physically, money is nervous system regulation. Money is how your body handles financial expansion. If your income increases, what happens internally? Do you stay steady or do you tighten? Is your savings growing? Can you leave it alone? Or do you feel pressure to spend it? If someone pays you more than expected, can you hold it without over delivering to justify it? Money is energy because it activates regulation. It reveals your tolerance for responsibility. If expansion feels unsafe, you will unconsciously contract, you will overspend, you will undercharge, you will delay scaling, you will sabotage consistency, not because you're spiritually blocked, but because your nervous system is not trained for growth. That's not mystical. That's maturity. Let's go in and jump into the next saying that I think is posted all over social media. And it is an affirmation that is given to people daily. And we want to make it physical. So money flows freely and easily. Money does not flow freely and easily. Money flows through systems. If there is no system, there is no flow. Flow requires structure. Flow requires repetition. Flow requires consistency. Flow requires discipline. Clear offers, clear pricing, tracking, saving, investing. What people call block flow is often inconsistent behavior. You cannot expect flow without infrastructure. Flow is mechanical repetition, not spiritual momentum. Okay, so we just went over these affirmations that are given to you daily in order to help you increase your money. And what I want to do is to help you give these affirmations form, physical form. So giving it physical form will also it will increase the money that's in your pockets. And that is the whole point of this live stream. So we just talked about money is energy and money flows easily. So let's talk about the third thing that is put out there in these spiritual spaces of money energetics, like raise your vibration. Okay, I think I've even mentioned this in some videos where I talk about how you raise your vibration, but I also counter it with some content where I talk about the mechanics of how to make that physical form. So raise your vibration. When I came across it, I always thought without any prior knowledge, I thought it was about trying to keep yourself excited and keep yourself happy. And those baseline, that type of standard is actually impossible, especially when we live in a world that's dual, that has duality. So there's good, there's bad, there's happy, there's sad. And so when you are putting that pressure of raising your vibration and you think that it's about keeping yourself excited or keeping yourself happy, you may get stuck in that language, in that verbiage, in that affirmation, and never get it past just a saying. And so let's make it physical. High vibration, or raise your vibration, is not about hype. It's not mood. High vibration in money is your baseline standards under pressure. Can you hold your rate when someone questions it? Can you negotiate without shrinking? Can you see revenue fluctuate and remain calm? That is high vibration. Low vibration looks like emotional decision making, discounting out of fear, spending to soothe anxiety, avoiding difficult conversation, over explaining to be like. Raising your vibration means increasing your tolerance for authority, not increasing your emotional intensity. Okay? Not increasing your emotional intensity. This means you don't have, guess what? Money is really neutral. So you don't have to be excited all the time in order to receive more money or to have more money or to become wealthy. You don't have to always be in a state of joy and happiness in order to have more money. And I think that should be good for a lot of us who experience life, who live life to the fullest, who encourage having different emotions that's constantly processing within us, that we don't have to be at a certain baseline all the time in order for money to want to be with us, money to allow leadership, for us to become wealthy and have more money. So I felt like that when I started really digging deep into that, that was something that actually made me happy, because I'm not one of those people who are constantly like always on a 10 or constantly, in a high emotional state, or constantly, trying to keep that state or baseline. So for me, who I experience different emotions throughout the day, I'm human. I can be happy just as well as I can be sad. And it's a good thing to know that if I'm in a period of where I'm sad or I'm unhappy or I'm not feeling good, I want to know that my money is not going to reject me. Okay. That's a good thing to know, that I don't have to be happy all the time in order to have money in my pocket. That I don't have to be in a state of joy and laughing and in order to have money continue to allow my leadership and to want me to lead it. So another affirmation that is constantly thrown out there in the spiritual community that is definitely leading women to be stuck in certain areas is, I'm open to receiving. Receiving is not verbal. Receiving is behavioral. Receiving in physical form means you allow money to stay. You don't immediately discharge it. You don't overwork to justify it. You don't shrink your standards after one objection. Most people do not have blocked abundance. They have discomfort with holding. Holding requires authority. Authority requires structure. And structure requires adulthood. Receiving is containment, not affirmation. Align and receive, which is the next affirmation. What we're doing here, bringing up a lot of the affirmations that are just thrown around in the spiritual community or the manifestation community, and they're never given physical form. A lot of times what's given to you is something very vague, and something very vague where you don't have an understanding around it is not going to help you have more money. And I want you to have money. I want you to have money follow you, adore you, require your leadership. And I know that when we have these spaces and we're putting out, oh, money is energy, money just flows. I'm paid to live. And we're putting these affirmations out here, and they're making people feel good, but they're not progressing past the money energetics into the money mechanics. And these two are required in order to make money neutral. Neutral money is powerful money. Especially if you think back to my situation when I talked about the fact that me and my husband, we were raised with a framework where money was moral. And since money was moral, we didn't look into money and mechanics. We didn't look into the budget, the system, the spreadsheet sheets. We didn't look into the structure. We would address ourselves morally when money slowed down, or we didn't make the amount that we thought we were going to make, or that money seemed tight. And this is what kept us financially stuck and not being able to reach the type of levels that we currently have now, where if we would have known, if we would have had this information that I'm giving you all 20, 30 years ago, well, we only been together about 26 years. So if about 20 something years ago, we would have been where we needed to be a lot faster. Because what happens is when you have the framework and you spiritualize money, you don't reach the financial point in life that you desire to be in. It's a lot slower because then you're not looking in the right spaces. Like, just imagine if you get, let's say you get $1 million. If you're looking at money in a moral perspective, you might be thinking, oh, I'm so blessed. I'm such a good person. I'm doing everything right. That's the reason why I got this $1 million. But then when it comes to the other side of the coin, which is money mechanics, where you make money energetics physical, you might miss out on the budgeting that's going to be required to make sure that you can hold that money, that you can keep that money. And so that is the reason why we're going through a lot of the affirmations that are put out in the spiritual or manifestation community that keep you from progressing into money mechanics. Money mechanics, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing exciting about money mechanics. And that is the reason why no one talks about it, because there's nothing exciting about budgeting, investing, saving. There's nothing exciting about giving your money structure. There's nothing exciting about talking about where your money is going and where it's been. There's nothing exciting about it. The excitement is in the money energetics, when you can talk about receiving, or you can talk about expansion, or you can talk about being blessed, or you can talk about being prayer. There's so many avenues that you can go into when you're focused on money energetics. And that's the reason why there's so much content around money energetics. And that's the dark side of it. Because if you have the understanding of money energetics, that is around feeling, instead of being able to just to keep it and to hold it. So if you're in the chat, make sure you can see and hear me. Make sure that we don't have any issues. I know I'm stopping in the middle. I just want to make sure and giving it a little pause to make sure that you can see and hear me. I'm not just speaking into the void. I don't want to look back at this video and realize, oh my gracious, no audio, or you couldn't see me. But let's get to the next affirmation that it seems also very popular in the spiritual or manifestation spaces that come out very vague. And I know that these spaces really just focus in on money energetics. And my goal here is to make it physical and give it form. And we're going to progress into money mechanics. Not exciting, but that's how you get the big bucks. So the next popular affirmation is align and receive. And I remember when I first came across this, I was sitting around trying to figure out, what do you mean align and receive? What do you mean? Does that mean that I am still doing something wrong? Does that mean that I'm still being moral? Does that mean that if I'm not aligned to my greatest good, or I'm not aligned to my greatest, thing that I'm supposed to be doing, I'm not going to receive money? And it took me a while to kind of break this down and realize that it needs physical form. It needs to progress into money mechanics. So when we say align and receive in these spaces, alignment is congruence between what you say and what you structure. If you want wealth, but avoid tracking numbers, you are not aligned. If you want expansion, but avoid risk, you're not aligned. If you want stability, but refuse to build systems, you are not aligned. Alignment is behavioral, not mystical. Money energetics was created to describe your internal world around money, but it must become physical. It must become budgets, savings, investment, discipline, negotiation, retention, correction, consistency. Otherwise, it remains a theory. And theory does not compound. Money does not require more perfection. Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful to realize that your money isn't moral? So money doesn't worry about the mistakes that you made in your past or the things that you say today. or it doesn't have any type of moral code. So, and I think that's a great thing, because if you are like myself, who carries like, I look at life in that way, into a certain manner, I'm glad it doesn't extend to money or some of the mistakes or things that I felt like I've done wrong in the past. This means I wouldn't be able to receive or have money. So that's the reason why money doesn't matter. Money doesn't care about the mistakes of your past or the things that you feel like that, that have violated you, or you violated it. And that was a great lesson for me to learn, for me to expand my thought process beyond money energetics into money mechanics. That was the lesson. And once that was integrated, energetics with mechanics, money stopped feeling mysterious. It became manageable, and management is maturity. Let me explain why it is important to understand both money mechanics and money energetics, and why separating them creates instability. Because if you only understand one, your wealth will either be unstable or exhausting. Money energetics is about the internal relationship to money. Money mechanics is about the external management of money. Energetics answers the question, can you handle expansion? Mechanics answers the question, can you structure expansion? You need both. If you only understood money mechanics, you can build income, you can budget, you can invest, you can negotiate, you can scale, you can increase revenue. On paper, everything can look correct, but if your nervous system cannot tolerate growth, you will sabotage what you build. You will overspend when you feel pressure. You will undercharge when you feel exposed. You will overwork and justify what you earn. You will overwork in order to justify what you earn. You will collapse when responsibility increases. You will shrink when authority expands. That is not a mechanical problem. That is energetic instability. You can have perfect systems and still self-destruct if your body equates expansion with danger. That is why energetics matter. Money activates identity. It activates visibility. It activates responsibility. It activates power dynamics. It activates authority. If you are not regulated internally, growth feels threatening. And when growth feels threatening, you unconsciously reduce it. Energetics stabilizes your internal world. But if you only focus on energetics, you stay inspired, not structured. And see, and that is the framework that we were passed down about money. And so we stayed inspired, we stayed motivated. We were all about making sure that we had money, making sure that we were able to live and live well. But that did not help us when money slowed down, tightened, or disappeared, because we did not have the other side of that framework that's needed in order to grow wealth, which is money mechanics. I journaled about abundance. I would feel aligned. I would feel worthy. I would feel open. I would talk about receiving. But without the mechanics, there's no tracking, no margins, no asset building, no retention strategy, no disciplined investing, no structured scaling. Feelings, emotions, ideas do not compound. Systems do. Mechanics stabilizes your external world. So here is why they must work together. Money mechanics builds the container. Money energetics builds your capacity to hold in the container. Energetics is your tolerance for responsibility. Mechanics without energetics leads to burnout. You build faster than your nervous system can regulate. You grind, you scale, you increase income, but you're anxious, reactive, tight, overextended. You look successful but feel unstable. That is wealth without regulation. Energetics without mechanics leads to instability. You feel expansive, you feel aligned, you feel spiritually open, but you have not built structure. So income fluctuates. There is no retention, there's no consistency, no plan. That is regulation without infrastructure. Wealth requires both stability and structure. So let's make it practical. Let's say you get a raise at work. Mechanic says increase your savings rate, invest consistently, maintain the margins instead of inflating your lifestyle. Energetic says, can you tolerate being the higher earner? Can you handle new expectations? Can you remain steady when more responsibilities placed on you? If you lack mechanics, you spin the raise. If you lack energetics, you shrink back into your comfort zone. Integration means you can hold the raise calmly and structure it intelligently. And this is something we had to learn, because when we had the energetics part, we were good about having money come into us. I mean, there's not an opportunity or time in our marriage when money didn't just show up. But since we didn't have the mechanics part of it, we would shrink back and into the comfort zone, and that money would go out in the spaces or places that we didn't have a plan for it. There was no structure for the money when it came in. So we ended up wasting a lot of money because we did not have this framework. We did not understand that in order to have wealth, in order to build wealth, in order to have more, you have to have money energetics plus money mechanics. You have to be able to have that structure or container when you receive money. That is how you make the big bucks. That is how you have wealth. You say, and I heard so many women on my page, always talking about the soft life. You want the soft life. Mechanics says build savings, create passive income, invest, plan long term. Energetic says you can receive without guilt. Can you tolerate someone providing? Can you hold leisure without anxiety? If you lack mechanics, softness is a fantasy. If you lack energetic, softness feels unsafe. Integration makes softness stable. This is why understanding both matters. Just checking to see if everything is working properly. But it is important. And this, like I said, this is coming from personal experience, that it is important that you understand both. Because being able to receive and have your fill of money is great. But if you cannot hold it, if you cannot give it structure, if you cannot have a container, if you cannot tell it where to go, you're not going to be able to keep it. And you're always going to be in that space where you don't have what you desire when it comes to money, because you don't have the mechanics that's needed for the money. Money energetics is spoken about. It may be spoken about in a vague language, but it's a language that we all understand. That's the reason why I'm creating this, the first video in a series, and where I want to really get into the energetics of money, because I want you to have money. I want you to have the type of money where you can just do what I want you to have FU money. I want you to have money where you can go and do and come as you want to and live your life in the way that you desire it. And I know that the basis of that is actually money. So this is the first series, the first video in this series of me talking about money energetics, and how we need to make it physical. It's so easy to sit on social media and talk about how the idea of money, the emotions surrounding money, the relationship we have with money. And if we're not giving anything structure, we're not giving it physical form, then you don't get to have money in its neutrality, because money is neutral. Money being in a neutral space or position makes it more powerful. because then your money is not attached to if you're a good person. Your money is not attached to how much you work. Your money isn't attached to your effort. Your money is not, when it is becomes neutral, it becomes powerful because it's not attached to all these different things. Me, when I first started handling money, because I got my first job at 15, my framework with money was that money was moral. And so I didn't think about how many hours I was working on, what my income was, or how to invest it, or how to use that money or track it. I thought along the lines of, as long as I'm a good person, I will have money. As long as I'm being good to others, I will have money. As long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I will have money. So I gave money so many behaviors that money doesn't have. And so with money having those behaviors, which makes it not neutral, it means it was only allowed to come to me unless it was coming through those avenues. So this means I had to be a good person. I had to make sure that I do everything right. I had to be a good girl. I had to do all these things in my mindset, the framework that I was given as a child in order to have money. So I was so happy and ecstatic when I realized that money really doesn't have those attachments, because money is neutral. And the more you make money neutral, the more you don't give it behaviors, the more you don't make it moral, the more you don't spiritualize it, the more money you get to have. And some of us hate that if you have that background that says you got to be this type of person in order to have money, or you got to act this way in order to have money, or you got to be around these people, or you got to, be with this type of person in order to have money. Money does not have any of those behaviors. Money does not have any of those things attached to it. The more you make money neutral, the more money you will have, the richer you will be, the happier you will be with money, and the more money will give you leadership over it. So this is the first video. We're going to continue in this series of really just making money physical and giving it physical form. So we start with the vague, hey, I exist. I paid. So I get paid to exist, or money is energy, or money flows freely and easily. We start with all of that. And now we're going to go into the opportunity to have money and have more of it and have more abundance of it. So I don't see any questions or comments in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to close out. I appreciate you ladies for being here with me. Make sure that you, leave me a comment at the end at the end of the video. Also, before I leave, I want to make sure I mention that since a lot of you reached out to me about learning how to remain when pressure is upon you with decisions, responsibility, authority, I created a space so that you can do that. So I'm going to drop the link in the end of the chat. And in the chat is the link also, and I'm going to drop it at the end of the video. It's called Inner Throne. So you just click that link and you can go into a space where you're able to practice remaining. And I will see you ladies on the next one. Bye.